Hello dear viewers, it's Aziza Karaeva and you are watching us on TV channel Tourism and Folklore. And today we have a guest, an American visionary and author of 142 new theories and visions in 176 scholarly books and numerous articles as of June 2022, Dr. Peter Baofu. And it should be noted that Dr. Baofu writes articles to provide a visionary challenge to conventional wisdoms in all fields of knowledge, in social science, in formal science, natural and humanities, with the aim for unified theories of everything together, with numerous visions of future histories in relations to the mind, nature, society and culture. Mr. Baofu, welcome once again to our TV channel and to Tajikistan.
Thank you for inviting me.
Mr. Baofu, it's a pleasure to have you in our TV channel. So, several years ago, our president, Emmanuel Rahman, had an initiative in the UN to declare International Decade for Action, Water for Sustainable Development in 2018 until 2028. From 6th till 9th of June this year in Dushanbe was held a conference dedicated to this conference, and it helps us to have guests from about 100 countries and about 2,500 visitors, guest participants in these conferences, and it gave the big impetus to Tajikistan to attract a lot of tourists to come here because we have a lot of resources. In the framework of the conference, our guests, they visited some tourist points, Baofu, Marzob, Hisor, and Norak, hydroelectric power stations. And what about you? How do you think? What else can we do to attract tourists and develop this field?
I think there are not just the two questions that I just mentioned, but also two issues over here, which are also related, especially about the conference that you just mentioned and the initiative. One issue is about tourism, the other issue is about water, as you just mentioned about the conference. And then the two questions, so let me combine them together and make it easier. I think that the larger context of the question and issue has to be addressed. The larger issue about development, by the way, that's also another point too. So let's talk about the first question first, and also the first issue first, if you like. I would like also to talk about tourism, and you just mentioned, but before I go into that, I would like to see what you are going to discuss.
Except in tourism, we also have our culture in the field of folk crafts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Let's talk about folk crafts. So, as a tourist, yes, as a visionary, how do you think? How does the folk craft will help to the country presented in the world?
That's also a very interesting question. In fact, I have written many books on art, on the question of beauty, including the visual arts and folk crafts and all that. I think some of the things which are very attractive to tourists when we come to Tajikistan is that the artistic scene is exotic, is different from, for someone like me who come from the West, I used to all this kind of Western artistic expression, abstract art, modern art, postmodern art, and all that. But once I come to Tajikistan, all of a sudden I confront the traditional craft here, which is very different, especially traditional in relation to Islam, and also in relation to some of the local geographical and historical heritage. Tajikistan, the Tajiks, they are different from other Stan in Central Asia. It's different in the sense that Tajiks are much more Persian. If you look into the history, Here is still used to be part of the Persian Empire. So the history is unlike like Kazakhstan, for example. So when the Turkic influence in Central Asia, in the case of Tajikistan, is different. Even though it does have some influence in Central Asia, but that's also very important. But then they left a legacy of the artistic expression. Just very simple. You go to the city center, you go to many places, look at the buildings and architecture. And many of them have a lot of Islamic expression and Turkish too expression. And the Persian too, by the way. So that is the exoticness for a lot of people that come from other countries, especially from the West. Now, I mentioned the West because now there's many of the tourists around the world. Many of them come from countries which can afford to travel. You don't see too many tourists, let's say, from Central Africa to travel around the world. They are migrants. But you see many tourists nowadays from the West, and also nowadays from the Far East, Japan, Korea, China too. China now become the largest tourist country on earth now. So, and many of them, when they come to this country and see all this kind of expression, that's exotic to them, number one, because many of them are not Muslim, many of them are not Persians, and many of them are not Turkics. So that's your major attractions over here. That's good in a way. You can explore that in the short term, yes, but in the long term, no. Why? Because tourism is flexible over time. In the short term, that is exotic to them. But you can increase them up to a certain point. When you say, yeah, we saw this before, what else can you offer? Look at Dubai is a good example. Dubai too, when you go to, nowadays Dubai is a major tourist center in the Middle East. Now, they go to Dubai before, they go to Dubai because they want to see what this kind of Middle Eastern Arabic artistic expression, sort of like you are trying to attract the Tajik expression. But after a while, people get used to that, say what want to offer. Now Dubai, now because they have the oil money, now they build all this kind of new buildings, fascinating attraction, amusement parks, and all these parks, all these kind of very tall buildings to attract. Now it's not such about Arabic, but it's more about modern attraction. They have the money to do it. Many people go to Dubai not just because they want to look into the Arabic, Middle Eastern artistic expression. They want to see some of the very modern architecture, buildings, parks that Dubai has spent all this money to build. Maybe in the longer term, Tajikistan too have to think long term. Just like people now, they go to China, go to Japan. Sure, they want to see the Chinese traditional art and all that. But now that you go to Beijing, Shanghai, Tokyo, you see a lot, some very modern, very up-to-date, even post-modern artistic expression. So it's not so much about the ancient Chinese anymore. It's more about very modern. Look at Shanghai, Beijing, Tokyo. You have some very, very interesting nightlife, artistic, all these things are urban planning, architecture. They are very modern. Since now people go there, take a picture with that, not with a Great Wall. Well, that is ancient wonder, fine, but you need more than that for the longer term. So yes, you're right about all this folk craft in the short term. In the longer term, you have to make them more sustainable in the longer term. You need more for that. Yeah. But then again, where's the money? I mean, it costs money for you to build all of this. Now, in the case of Dubai, because they have oil money, there's an oil producer. Over time, they have a lot of petrol dollars. They have a lot, tons of money for them to buy this, fine. Tajikistan also have a lot of mineral resources, by the way, that you can export and pay for that, by the way. So, but it will take time. In the case of China or Tokyo or Japan or South Korea, because they are high development, and over time they have a lot of supplies that they can use to develop themselves. So each country has a different history, different reason for them to come up with the money to pay for all of this. Tajikistan too. You also have a lot of very good resources. In fact, even right now in Tajikistan, look at the economy. The agricultural export, especially cotton, is a major one. And then you have the aluminum production. That's also very important too. And I even mentioned about migration, immigration to Russia and some other countries. A huge part of the Tajik economy is based on remittances that people send back. It's look in Dushanbe here. Dushanbe, you see a lot of houses, sometimes a lot of cars. How can people pay for all this? Well, because the mother, the father, sister, friends, whatever, the family somewhere working in Russia or in some other country, they send back money over, even though they don't have a job here, but they can still pay for all this. So that is very important. But again, that is not sustainable in the long term, because nowadays many of the migrants in Russia now is under sanction by the EU and the US. So the Russian economy is also now facing another problem. Many of those migrants sooner or later cannot send back a lot of money anymore. And you will see that shock soon, coming to Tajikistan soon. What is the solution? Well, what Russia is doing and what the local people are doing too is that more and more China will become the major source of economic development in this region. Because they are next to you, they have the comparative advantage. Even Russia now is more and more dependent on China, the Chinese economy. So there's another solution to that, and then maybe that can help you to pay for it. Because
okay, yes. So thank you for your conversation. So what will you tell for your last words for our TV viewers?
Well, the last word is probably the one that we have not yet talked about. Maybe I take this opportunity to talk about too, is that we also need to look into the question whether, let's say, tourism is a good thing for Tajikistan. I do think that in the longer term, the answer is no. I think that your development, if you become too dependent on tourism, you will not go very far to your economy, to your well-being. So yes, you can develop tourism, but remember, it's time also to diversify, to focus on some other way to develop manufacturing, for example, maybe for direct investment to do something, so that you do not need to over dependent on tourism, because tourism also has a cost. The more tourists that you have, the more damage to the environment that you have in the longer term. Tourists, when they go to visit the mountains, fine, but they also leave a lot of trash. Each time they walk to the mountains, you talk about millions, thousands of tourists walking on the mountain. Over time, you have a negative impact on the environment too. Okay, it depends on what they do. So don't think that it's cost-free. It costs you a lot too in the longer term. So do not, and also tourism is not unlimited. You're also competing with some other countries too. So the more other countries are attracting a lot of tourists, the less you may have for the same tourists. So in the longer term, you may want to diversify and see what other thing you can do to improve your economy. So people who depend a lot on tourism often are the poorest countries. And people who are very advanced are often countries which do not depend too much on tourism. Look at China, look at Japan. They have a huge tourism too, but the majority of the economy is not about tourism. It's about manufacturing, for example, service-oriented. So it's another thing for you to think about whether tourism is your last word, by the way. For the economy, my answer is no. You have to go beyond tourism, but I think that's for the future.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So some minutes ago, you told that we should talk another issue. Yes, another question about Tajikistan. So maybe it's time to talk about it.
Yes, because the conversation so far has been focusing on water supply and tourism. I think the two are related. And we just assume in the question that that's a good thing to have tourism, that's a good thing to have more water supply. And I mentioned to you at the beginning that question, there are two questions really. Yes. One question is that whether it's good to have more water supply and more tourism. If it is, what we can do about it. And the second question is that if it's not necessarily good, then maybe we should think twice about pursuing tourism more. That is the second question that I have in mind. We haven't spoken about this yet. Maybe it's time to talk about this. Now the second question in your question is whether tourism and more water supply for consumption is necessary, a good thing. My answer is no. It is good in a certain way, but it's bad in another way. Let's talk about, let's say, water supply first and then tourism again too. It's the same problem. The more tourists you have, the more damage they can do on the environment. Look at Egypt. Egypt, they have the pyramids, right? It's nice. A lot of tourists come to Egypt each year to look at the pyramid. Me too, I was there. So, but now many of the tourist sites of the pyramids and many other attractions, they are broken down now. Why? Because the tourists come there so many times, so many of them each year. You step on that, you step on that, you step on that, you step on that. Think about how many times you step like this each year, millions of them. Over time, wow. The earth is feeling the pressure here. Many of the pyramids, by the way, is getting old, and people sometimes sabotage or damage, and it's nice, it's so nice. Even though you're not supposed to cut, sometimes they even enter after security, so looking at me, so I enter, you have a lot of violation. So over time, nature is feeling the impact of tourism. Bam, 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 wow. Understand me? The earth, you can feel the impact of the human pressure. And many of them throw away some trash. There are some campers. They have a camp, backpackers, they have a camp. They eat all this food, they can, or the water. I mean, sometimes you have all this kind of trash all over the mountains, all over those pyramids. People are eating too. And some of them, they have to clean up, but the cleanup is not 100%. So each year, more tourism, well, you can earn some money, but there's a lot of cost on the environment now. Think about all this cost. Do you want more on that? Maybe next time, before you say more, you look into the mountains, the water, and see how it has impacted you. Now, Egypt now, they have been trying to protect the pyramids from tourist destruction or negative impact. You see that there is some other issue that is that sustainable? So my answer is in the long term, no. You have to do something else. That's why Dubai and some other countries now, they are creating something else to attract tourism. Not just going to the same old way, but then when they do the new things, you also have to look at the same issue to have a sustainability. So maybe in the long term, you need to diversify your economy and not so much dependent on tourism, because that is going to have a huge impact on the environment. And maybe do some manufacturing, maybe do some service industry. Even though tourism is part of the service sector, but there are some other things you can do, like finance, education, healthcare, insurance, banking. I mean, I'm just giving you some other options, not that tourism, because that's the only thing that you know what to do. It's time to go beyond the mindset and say there are many other things that you can do, not just tourism, because they have a negative impact. Not just on the water supply, but also on the nature, the beautiful nature that you have, even the cultural heritage. The more they go to Bukhara, after 20 years, Bukhara will suffer some of the same damages. And many other countries. Look at the Great Wall in China. You have millions of people go to China each year, not just the Chinese foreigners. They want to see the Great Wall. They step on the Great Wall. Now the Great Wall, some parts are already broken down. Because you have to step on it. So this is one question that I think that the local people need to look at, and is that sustainable in the longer term? My answer is no. And there are solutions, but you need to look into those solutions that I just mentioned. And again, the foreign direct investment, I think that's a good source because.
Good. So, okay, thank you, Mr. Baofu, for your colorful conversation with us. Welcome once again here. And okay, so now, dear viewers, our talk show, our conversation is going to end. Thank you for your attention, and see you